You're watching Nightly International live from Cairo, and it's time for our daily press review of the local newspapers. And we start with the Al-Ahram newspaper, and we read from Al-Ahram. Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry said on Tuesday, Egypt seeks to resolve the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, the GERD dispute, peacefully through negotiations that serve the interests of Egypt, Sudan and Ethiopia, and diffuse any tension or escalation. The top diplomat's remarks came in New York ahead of the United Nations Security Council, the UNSC session that will be held on Thursday at the request of Egypt and Sudan over the GERD dispute. Shoukry told the TV channel Extra News that he held several intensive meetings in preparation for the planned UNSC session, in which he highlighted the Egyptian goal to reach a binding agreement on the filling and operation of the dam. Ethiopia on Monday notified Egypt and Sudan. It began the second stage of filling the GRD's reservoir despite the lack of legally binding agreement between the three African nations. Shoukry affirmed that Egypt and Sudan have announced rejection of this unilateral act, which he said makes reaching an agreement more complicated. The top diplomat, or rather the top Egyptian diplomat, said that all Egyptian state institutions attaches utmost importance and priority to the GRD issue due to its direct connection with the national security and the interests of its people. And moving to Akhbar al-Yom newspaper, we read from Akhbar al-Yom. Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry continued his meetings on Tuesday in New York with UN officials and met with the permanent representatives of Russia and China, who he discussed the latest developments of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam GERD with. Russia and China are permanent members of the UN Security Council. According to the Foreign Ministry, Shoukry asserted in the meeting Egypt's stance concerning the GRD dispute and the necessity to reach a legally binding agreement on the filling and the operation of the Ethiopian dam. Shoukry and his Sudanese counterpart Mariam As-Siddiq Al-Mahdi are currently in New York preparing for the United Nations Security Council session on the GERD next Thursday. And moving to Al-Masri al-Yom newspaper, we read from Al-Masri al-Yom, the Arab League slammed on Tuesday Ethiopia's clear endeavor to drive a wedge between the Pan-Arab body and the African Union, the AU, over the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam dispute between Egypt, Sudan and Ethiopia. Addis Ababa said on Tuesday it sent a letter to the United Nations Security Council, the UNSC, protesting the unwelcome meddling of the Arab League on the GERD issue, asserting that the League addressed the UN on the GERD issue, which does not fall within its purview. The Ethiopian letter to the United Nations Security Council claimed that the League's approach on the issue undermined relations between the AU and the League. The statement said the Arab League is not planning to engage in any form of confrontation with the African Union, especially as 10 of the League's member countries are also members of the African Union. The statement affirmed that the League maintains diverse frameworks and mechanisms for consultation and joint work with the AU and is keen to coordinate stances with the AU on many issues. The statement also highlighted the special friendly relations gathering Ahmed Abul Ghait, the Secretary of the Arab League and Chairman of the African Union Commission AUC, Musa Faki. And moving to Al-Shuruq newspaper, we read from Al-Shuruq. Sudan said on Tuesday a notification by Ethiopia on the start of the second filling of its mega dam on the Blue Nile is useless unless a final agreement on the process is reached. The Sudanese Foreign Ministry said a final binding agreement on the filling and operation of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, the GERD, would be the only proof of the Ethiopian desire to cooperate. Sudan also slammed attempts to block the path of international support to the fair Sudanese demands on the GERD dispute as futile. The ministry reiterated its rejection of Ethiopia's unilateral step to start filling the dam for the second year in a row. And moving to Al-Masri Al-Yom newspaper, we read from Al-Masri Al-Yom, the U.S. Department of State spokesperson Ned Price said in his daily briefing that Ethiopia's second filling for the GERD is a unilateral action, which is fair to say that is a potential to raise tensions between parties. He called on all parties to refrain from all unilateral actions that would raise tensions. And moving to Al-Ahram newspaper, we read from Al-Ahram, following 6 months of plenary meetings, the Senate, Egypt's consultative upper house, announced on Tuesday that it would adjourn for summer recess. Senate Speaker Abdul Wahab Abdul-Razak said on Tuesday will be the end of the Senate's first legislative season before summer recess, and so let's say goodbye to a very delicate period during which we passed through the very hard circumstances of the coronavirus pandemic. Abdul-Razak added that the Senate was keen over the last period to boost democracy in Egypt, taking into account the goals of the country's constitutional developments and the hopes and aspirations of citizens. He indicated that during its first legislative season, the Senate was involved in discussing a new package of social and economic laws. Abdul-Razak noted that there was close cooperation between the Senate on one side and the government of Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli and the House of Representatives on the other. And moving to Al-Wafd newspaper, we read from Al-Wafd, the new British aircraft carrier HMS Queen Elizabeth, the British Royal Navy's newest and most powerful warship, and the Type 23 ASW frigate HMS Richmond both transited the Suez Canal on Tuesday as part of the UK-led Carrier Strike Group 21 operational deployment. British Ambassador to Cairo, Jeffrey Adams, hailed the crossing of the HMS Queen Elizabeth as a historic moment. Moving to Al-Shuruq newspaper, we read from Al-Shuruq, the Ismailia Economic Court agreed on Tuesday to lift its impound order against the giant Evergreen ship that had blocked the Suez Canal for nearly a week in March, allowing it to leave the canal on Wednesday per the request of the Suez Canal Authority, the SCA, so it can continue its voyage to Rotterdam. The SCA announced on Sunday that it would sign a settlement agreement on Wednesday with the owner of the Evergreen ship. The ship will be allowed to depart the Suez Canal following the signing of the agreement. Shoow, the Japanese owner of the vessel, and its insurers said last month they had reached an agreement in principle with the Suez Canal Authority. The SCA had demanded $916 million in compensation to cover salvage efforts, reputational damage and lost revenue before publicly lowering the request to $550 million. The giant Evergreen ship will leave the Suez Canal accompanied with 2 tugboats and the guidance of 2 transit guides from the SCA. And moving to Al-Wafd newspaper, we read from Al-Wafd, Minister of International Cooperation Dr. Rania Al-Mashat announced on Tuesday that investments worth of $1.33 billion, representing 5.2% of the ongoing development cooperation portfolio, were channeled into 18 projects across 17 governorates and around 31 different locations, pushing towards the achievement of SDG 1, no poverty. This comes within the framework of the stakeholders' cooperation with multilateral and bilateral development partners to end poverty and improve the living conditions of the people. The minister explained that the ODA SDG map is accessible through the Ministry of International Cooperation's website, showcasing the allocation of the $25 billion development portfolio across 377 projects, along with detailed information on the location of each project and the SDGs it fulfills. And moving to أخبار اليوم newspaper, we read from أخبار اليوم, meteorologists predict hot weather on Wednesday in Cairo and the Delta, with moderately hot weather in the north coast and very hot weather in South Sinai and Upper Egypt. High humidity will increase the feeling of heat by 2 to 4 degrees, and weather will grow moderate and mild at night across the country. A light mist will be present on roads leading to Cairo, the Delta and North Upper Egypt. And the high temperatures predicted for today, Wednesday: Cairo 36 degrees, Alexandria 30 degrees, Matrouh 29 degrees, Qina 40 degrees, Sohag 39 degrees, and Aswan 43 degrees. Well, that ends the review of the local press for this morning. We still have more coming up on the breakfast show. I'm Nusreen Bihar.